So, hello everyone, and it's great to see so many of you, even if I'm waiting for the moment to meet face to face, but it's always good to see your faces and be together and feel the energy. Isla, could you open share? Yeah. And could you go to the second slide, please?
With me just a moment. Right, has that appeared okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Real.
Thank you. So, as you all know, a big part of the program, the third outcome of the program is to create a positive change with and for young people and for the environment. So the three asks are central to the scope of create a positive change. And in our session, we would like to share the biggest wins that we have got in terms of like policy, influencing, and campaigns over the past year. And then we will reflect with you through the breakout rooms on how to take the three asks forward, going forward, and also we will touch on COP26. So I will hand over to Isla to start with ask number 1, learning more in and about nature.
Thanks, Roberta, and hi everyone. Great to see so many familiar faces and some I haven't met too. So yeah, we'll start with ask 1, learning in and about nature. So you'll probably all be aware that Outdoor Classroom Day takes place twice a year, and it provides a key opportunity for us to promote Ask One, to talk about the benefits of outdoor learning and the various resources that are available to support learning in and about nature, as well as highlighting the many outdoor activities happening on the day with projects and partners. This year, we set up an online action for people to voice their support for outdoor learning opportunities in schools. So we created 2 template letter versions, one for students and one for those of us that are no longer in school, to send to local schools to encourage them to take more classes outside. We also used Outdoor Classroom Day as an opportunity to follow up with the Education Select Committee, further to our request last year for an inquiry into the key role that outdoor learning has to play in supporting children and young people's health, well-being and school attainment. This time we received a bit of a more promising response, and that the committee's meetings with ministers could indeed cover some of the issues that we'd raised with the committee. Elsewhere, Ulster Wildlife, our policy contractor in Northern Ireland, ran the #LearnMoreOutdoors campaign, and that delivered 4 training sessions for the youth advocates. The young people filmed clips for a series of 6 videos on the theme of outdoor learning, and these were widely shared together with impactful social media messages. And as part of that campaign, the young people met with the Minister for Education, Mr. Peter Weir, MLA. The meeting was really positive, and as a result, the young advocates have been invited to share guidance on outdoor learning via the Education Authority website. Really positive. And here we have just one of the excellent videos that were put together by Ulster Wildlife Youth Advocates. So I will see if this will play. Give me a shout if not, as I can't actually see many of you. Let's give it a try.
Learning outside improves health and well-being as a result of the increased physical movement. This activity stimulates the brain, which gets it ready and focused for the next class.
Outdoor activity stimulates the brain and nervous system
and decreases stress levels.
Makes lessons more interactive and enjoyable.
Outdoor learning increases motivation.
It also improves social skills,
boosts observational skills and curiosity.
Positive impact on pupil behaviour.
The outdoors is beneficial for children with special educational needs as it reduces the likelihood of sensory overload in the classroom.
Direct experience of our surroundings increases our connection with nature.
Increases care for the environment.
There is enhanced ventilation in comparison to the classroom, which is particularly important in the current climate.
Studies have also shown that increased time spent outdoors encourages a healthy immune system.
Brilliant stuff there. And now we'll move on to Ask 2, Roberta.
Yes. Thank you, Ayla. So in terms of progressing Ask 2, so more green, supporting young people to get into green jobs and like start their career in the sector, we contributed to the Green Challenge Recovery Fund. So to secure like a first £40 million, then doubling that amount to 80 million to support more young people to enter the green sector. Then 9 organizations connected to Our Bright Future participated and were successful to secure funding from this scheme, being awarded in total 5.3 million between them. And this is 14% of the total amount awarded. So really big success from many of the organizations involved that we are celebrating today. Then second point, the National Nature Service. We are working through Wildlife and Countryside Link, a group of environmental charities, mainly with some youth-focused charities too, to ask the UK government, to influence the UK government to offer that a national initiative to support more young people to get into the green sector, because this is what young people are asking. And so we have got some results in this sense as well, with the National Nature Service included in the Labour Manifesto for the Green Recovery, and with the mention, with the suggestion by the Environmental Audit Committee to pilot the National Nature Service. And more recently, another group of health and environmental campaigners managed to secure some funding to develop the idea further, starting from what is a group like the one we were involved in developed, like in terms of briefing of all the information. And so now we are involved with this parallel group too, to try to secure a pilot of by the end of this year. Then, as it was mentioned at the beginning, there was we organized an online careers event with RSPB, Groundwork UK, National Youth Agency, and that was like a good chance for young people to get their questions answered by a panel of youth, a youth panel of young people getting to their first experience in the sector, and also specialists, so green specialists in the work specialists from within Our Bright Future. Then finally, supporting a new funding stream. So in Wales, the National Lottery Community Fund is currently developing a new employability program that is worth £80 million. And we are currently supporting this by directly inputting with the learning from the program, but also we put in contact with young people from the Wildlife Trust Wales with the program to have their voices heard and influence this program further. So this is something to look forward, that we are excited for the next months to come, to be then deployed in Wales. Okay, so now it's on to Ask number 3, and Ayla, over to you.
Thanks, Roberta. So Ask 3, Youth Voice, is obviously a pretty broad ask, so there's a lot to cover. So we've picked out just some highlights here. So over the past year, we delivered a series of webinars in collaboration with the Environment Agency, and these focused on water management, the water environment in relation to climate change, and career opportunities within the Environment Agency. So through these events, young people were given the opportunity to also input into the Environment Agency's consultation on water management, and I was able to collate attendees' written and verbal comments into a formal submission. And the final event of that series with the Environment Agency focused on youth voice specifically. So we had the chair of the Environment Agency, Emma Howard-Boyd, our very own chair of Our Bright Future, Peter Foxall, and Youth Forum member and former Youth MP, Alex McDermott, all the speakers at that event. And young people had the opportunity there to indicate several ways in which they would like to get more involved with the Environment Agency's work, including things like local meetings, social media, and events just like the one that we ran. They also shared their views on how better chances for youth governance would benefit both themselves, especially in terms of increased confidence and potential future job prospects, and the Environment Agency in terms of increased diversity and better representation of society. A summary of the event and young people's input is being shared with the Environment Agency's board, who are happy to say really receptive to suggestions on improving youth engagement and governance, and we are currently exploring the possibility for young people to actually present findings at a future board meeting. Elsewhere, we had a busy time in the run-up to local and devolved elections this year. So we organised 4 events for young people to gain a better understanding of how they can get involved in the democratic process, that's as voters and even as standing as candidates, as well as looking at methods of engaging with and influencing their representatives. We also produced a series of 4 toolkits dubbed Have a Voice, Have a Choice, and that covers methods of engaging with politics, local and national elections, and how to host a hustings. So I think Roberta is going to post a link to that toolkit into the chat in a moment, but you can also find the recordings of all those events still available to watch on our YouTube channel.
Okay, so I actually posted the link to all the resources, like our resources page with the toolkits in it, so like the 4 parts of the toolkits, or like the one that like that consolidated 4 parts in one document. So please have a look. There are like brilliant resources there that you can use with the young people you work with. So apart from supporting the young people to access really good platforms to have their voices heard, in all the events and activities that we organized over the past year, we always then try our best to ensure that young people could play a role, like an important, a key role, like chairing the events, speaking at events, and also to respond to their needs in terms of like upskilling the young people with like information, knowledge around the things like issues that they wanted to hear more. And that's like in this slide, we are sharing some of the feedback that we received from the young people, highlighting what their experience with our events has been so far. So please take a look, just a few moments to see the good comments that we received.
And here are just some highlights of how projects have progressed the 3 asks over the past year. So Our Wild Coast created an outdoor classroom. You can see a picture of that there. And inspired by the parliamentary reception, Our Bright Future organised the project, also linked young people with their local policymakers through a series of youth-led online debates. The last online event, held back in March, focused entirely on the 3 asks and involved questioning the main political parties in Wales in the lead up to the election. So that would be the event that Megan mentioned earlier. And also, as mentioned earlier, Belfast Hills Bright Future ran a week-long environmental careers festival featuring a panel of young career professionals and staff experienced in the recruitment process, as well as a Q&A section. A resource pack was also created alongside the event, which is a really great resource. Would recommend checking that out. We'll pop a link into the chat if we've got that to hand. And Impact Arts included the 3 asks in their celebration video. Patrick Harvey, who's the co-leader of the Scottish Green Party, was interviewed about the 3 asks as part of this video.
So I added the resource pack in the chat from Belfast. It's really like a brilliant resource for young people to have like a better idea around careers in the green sector. Then Friends of the Earth set up a steering group of young people which took part in the recruitment of the new CEOs, and they've got young people on their board, and also young people are part of like groups that are inputting into the campaigns and the organizational directions. Then Your Shore Beach Rangers, thanks to them, Cornwall College acknowledged the need for more outdoor learning, but also shifted to a more sustainable attitude across all the colleges. And Lancashire Wildlife Trust, home of my place, has now appointed a youth advocacy officer with the 3 asks part of the interview process, like a core part of the interviewing process. And the Youth Council, young people in the Youth Council, are now engaging regularly with MPs. So, for example, they took like a Cats Meet on a virtual tour of the nature reserves, and they inputted into the Greater Manchester plans through by an online event. So lots of achievements there really from this project. Please, next slide.
And looking ahead, these are some of the activities that we're planning in the programme team to promote the 3 asks. So the National Nature Service pilot, as Roberta mentioned, we're in the early stages of working with a group of health and climate campaigners in developing the NNS initiative further and looking to design a pilot as well. So we'll have more information and opportunities to share on that later in the year. Outdoor learning letter actions. Obviously spoke earlier about the action that we promoted around Outdoor Classroom Day to empower people to write to their local schools in support of outdoor learning. That action is still ongoing. We tweaked it a little bit, so it's kind of always on, and that's available on the Ask One webpage of our website. So if you could please sort of encourage your young people and take part yourself in writing to schools to encourage them to take lessons outdoors, that would be great. We're going to be updating those letters and promoting the action again more actively as we approach the next Outdoor Classroom Day later this year, which will be happening early November.
Then there is the youth-led event. So we are co-organizing this event with the National Lottery Community Fund. So we created a working group that is called now Youth Dream Green, of young people that want to have a say around the crisis that we are living in, the environmental, the climate crisis, and the COVID-19 crisis. And they want to present the solutions that they are thinking to address this crisis. So we are having regular meetings for the young, supporting the young people to lead and to present and to organize this event. If the young people you work with are interested in being part, please have a look at the opportunities page of our website. Then toolkits and other resources. So we mentioned in another slide that these resources are available. It's like they were created in parallel with organizing some webinars for young people to better understand how politics work and how to be involved in the democratic processes for the general elections and the local elections. And so they are like a really good youth-friendly material so you could use with the young people involved in your projects. Also, there are the recordings available from the events that we organized. So check this out on our website. So last year, the general elections, the local elections, were an opportunity to support young people to have like their voices heard by decision makers. And now going forward, if like we start looking ahead, COP26 will be certainly another big opportunity. In the lead up to COP26, there is a campaign called Wave of Hope, and it's organized by Crack the Crisis. Crack the Crisis is 70 organizations that are involved, both environmental but also focusing on social justice. It's a good mix of organizations, and their aim is to focus on what the decision makers should like having the voices heard from the society on how the decision makers. We need to address all the crises together and not just focusing on one or the other. So we are thinking of, we are getting involved with this campaign, and I would suggest this is a good way in the lead up to the COP26. But then in terms of COP26 itself, if we go to the other slide, please. So we've got this question that we are starting to think and plan for the next months. What should we do together to ensure that young people's views, needs, and aspirations are heard by the leaders at COP26. And things that to consider include: how do we ensure that young people are fully informed? How can we help young people to feel inspired to take part in the discussions, feel that they can have a say in it? And could we do something, an activity face-to-face, online? What could we organize? So we will share a link to a Jamboard at the end of this event for you to input into, because we are starting to get some ideas together to plan for these big opportunities in the next months until November. Next slide, please. And over to you, Isla.
Thanks, Roberta. So having talked through some examples ourselves of what projects have achieved, we'd now like to hear from you. So we're going to send you into breakout rooms with 2 questions that we'd like your thoughts on. So firstly, what has been your organisation's biggest achievement in terms of progressing the 3 asks? And secondly, what are your plans to progress the 3 asks going forward? So we'll be giving you half an hour. It's probably best if you focus on each question for around 15 minutes. We'll post a link to a Jamboard into the chat now, which you'll all be able to add to. So we're hoping to have a busy board. There are 2 pages to that board, so one covering each question. You can toggle between the 2. Just make sure you're adding notes onto the correct page for each. And we would ask that you please nominate someone from within your group to share feedback when we come back later on. After the breakout rooms, I think we'll be going directly into a break, but when we come back, there'll be about 15 minutes or so for each group's nominated person to feedback 1 or 2 key points that came up in your breakout room. And we'd suggest that things to think about when you talk about future plans could include how you're planning to increase youth leadership and youth governance, and whether there's anything that you're planning to do to make it easier for young people to find a green job, and whether you've got plans to work with schools to embed more outdoor learning. So I think if I just stop sharing now, as I can't see anyone. How are we doing for time, Nikki? Have we got space to perhaps take any questions?
Yeah, we are ahead of time. So yeah, you can certainly have about 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you. So that Jamboard link is in the chat, and give us a shout if that's not working for anyone before we send you all off in a moment.
And just like to add that it would be good to have 1 point from the first question and 1 point from the second one. So if the people who are taking these notes could take a couple of points, 1 to answer the first question, 1 to answer the second one. Thank you.
All right, if there's no burning questions, Nikki, are you happy to go ahead with setting up those breakout rooms?
Yeah, I'm about to send everybody into breakout rooms now, and I think you'll be in your breakout rooms for approximately 20 to 30 minutes. So here we go. We'll see you back here shortly.
Super. Is that everyone back in the room now, Nikki?
Yeah.
Fab. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope you all had some good discussions in there. I think we might have had a bit of a problem with the Jamboard at one point, but don't worry, no harm done. I think if we're all happy to come back in 15 minutes once you've had a bit of a coffee break, and hopefully you've all got someone from your group that can do a quick bit of feedback on your discussion. So by my clock, I'm making that, what, just gone 25 to, Nikki, am I counting
Yeah,
right?
that's good to me. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everyone, grab yourselves a quick break and we'll see you back here in 15 minutes. Thanks, Nikki. All right. Thanks, Nikki. Welcome back, everyone. Roberta, I'm going to hand straight over to you.
Yeah, so welcome back. It's now time to share your thoughts, and I hope that you had a good chat. We surely had, sharing many achievements, and I was pleased to hear how the projects progressed, the 3 asks, and how we're planning to progress them going forward. So if you could share quickly, because we've got 15 minutes for these, one achievement that you are proud of from your group, and one a plan to progress the 3 asks going forward. And then we can start with the group number 1, room number 1, if the spokesperson could start.
Yeah, Roberta, hi, it's Peter here. I was designated as the spokesperson. So one achievement then collectively would be around nurturing environmental careers, but that also included teacher training support. So that whole sort of nurturing environment around young people to look to the future. And then the next one, which is the plan to progress, this is one that we all agreed on. It was really about young people's voice, and it may not be just entirely about the environment, it may be within the environment. So the thing is about the reality of young people's situations. They are not all the same, particularly in the COVID era. And basically we need to understand going forward where they are at, what is important for young people, rather than just what is important just to us to fulfill the 3 R's. So it's quite a holistic approach going forward.
I see. Thank you for sharing, Peter. Were there any examples of the achievements that were more specific examples of how these career?
Yeah. So the environmental careers fairs would be an example. So that came up in the introduction. Teacher training support going forward. So it's all of these things that are set up in activities. And some of them are happening anyway within organisations, and others highlight and have been brought in because of the 3 asks. And the other one about nurturing and supporting and holistic approach is listening to the young people's voices when they come in for support or mentoring. It may not be wholly about the environment. So that was where the holistic example came in. From mentoring and supporting.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. And then we go now on to the room number 2.
Roberta, that was me. We actually have got a highlight for each of the asks, is that all right? I'll do it quite quickly and as a brief overview. So for ask number 1, the highlight between our group was probably this idea of having seasonal resources or resource packs that would be available post-project for young people, for schools to download to continue that kind of engagement with nature after our project ends. Probably for ask number 2, it was the main focus was around the apprenticeships and the opportunities that the young people have gained qualifications due to the project. So for example, Shore Beach Rangers spoke about their Beach Ranger Academy and the opportunities that that's provided the young people being their highlight. The third one for ask 3 would probably be around kind of constitutional changes, more specific around Ulster wildlife, around obviously giving young people the opportunity to have their voice heard. So they're probably our 3 main highlights for that. There was a bit of overlap into the second question. We felt a lot of the highlights from the first part were the things that probably were going to be continued as well. So just a couple of areas for that. Again, these kind of books, tips and guides would be available after the project, and that will be continued. I know there was discussions around the Kickstart scheme. So a couple of the people in our group have obviously given those opportunities to young people to obviously gain experience for jobs in the environmental sector. That's something that's obviously going to be continued post-project. And then also just having community projects for special educational needs young people or volunteers, these kind of setting up the projects that would continue on afterwards. So obviously gardens will be created, maybe day events where there's beekeeping or forestry management. Projects are planning on to continue those kind of engagements. So that's more around Ask 1.
Thank you, Ollie. That's great. So now the room number 3, please.
I think we were group 3, but if there's someone else that thinks they are, I'm happy to take over because I think we were 3, I'm not sure. So we focused for the biggest achievements, we focused a lot on youth voice, Ask 3. So Lancashire Wildlife Trust with their youth council and all the achievements and opportunities they've gained, and also with North Wales Wildlife Trust Youth Forum, and all the different opportunities that they've done, too many to name. And then for Ask 2, we looked at how the Kickstarter scheme has really supported some projects to allow paid job opportunities for young people, and hopefully how that will continue in the future. And also how they changed the Lancashire Wildlife Trust did some work around changing the subjective meaning of green jobs, and actually how there's a wide range of jobs that young people can get into and it can still be classed as green. And then in terms of progress and future plans, the Kickstarter programme will hopefully continue on, and that'll be a great resource. And just a specific example, there is going to be a youth campaigning group set up by Lancashire Wildlife Trust about increasing inclusivity and diversity whilst taking action through campaigns. So look out for that one, probably from Eleanor. And then for the Youth Forum, we're looking at the Environmental Leaders in Secondary School campaign, which we will discuss more in the Youth Forum session. But that encompasses all of the 3 asks. So that's something to look forward to as well.
Yeah, and we don't want to cover that now, so to leave it a secret for later on. Thank you. Perfect. Right. Really exciting plans and exciting achievements, actually. Yeah. So group number 4, let's see if someone from the group number 4 knows that is from that group. Group number 4.
I can tell you it was our room, but we got so distracted by trying to write on the board that we didn't get as far as who wants to say about the project. So does anybody else want to say from the group, or shall I just carry on?
I think you should carry on, Isabel.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I think probably we talked about the achievements more on a project level rather than on a programme level. So Lynn in particular said that they had completely changed one of their sites and got access to a site that was right in the city centre in the middle of Liverpool. So their beekeeping sites were scattered across the city, and suddenly they've now got one right in the middle of the site, and therefore of the city, so therefore accessible to far more people. In terms of that outdoor classroom sort of opportunities, I think was probably a big part of a project achievement. But I think overall, I think several of us have been involved in traineeships and apprentices of various sort of things. So Kickstart's obviously been mentioned by several people already. But I know Denise was saying that through groundwork, and I think this is sort of like follows through with 1 or 2 others as well. But by having young people on trainee sort of programs, it's basically changed almost how the organisation works, in terms of actually that you've had people who haven't come from a graduate background who are now moving up through the organisation and actually becoming members of staff, rather than perhaps this recruitment from normally from a graduate pool. So that's actually changed a little bit as to how they've worked. And I think 1 or 2 others I know within Yorkshire Dales Millennium Trust, traineeships have become embedded now within the organisation as to moving forward. So I think those were probably the 2 key things. There were lots of other things, but I'm sure others have got the same as well.
And where the plans going forward mirroring these achievements, like there are more plans to progress the asks in the same way?
We didn't especially talk about the ask sort of bit. I think the rollout of the Kickstart program was probably, so that supporting green jobs sort of bit was probably the bit that we focused on the most. There was some conversations about youth councils and youth forums as well, sort of being a way forward to make voice still heard.
Yeah, Yeah, and this resonates with like lots of other groups, like findings around like the organizational structure that need to change in order to make more voices of young people to be heard. And it was also in our group number 5. Andy, over to you.
Well, you've already started, Roberta, so you can carry on if you want to.
Sorry. Over to you.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, no, we had a really good conversation, actually, similar, very similar to what everyone else was talking about, I think. But sort of the common themes we found from our achievements really were providing young people with opportunity, really linking young people with decision makers as well, when we're thinking about an hour outdoor a day spent in the sort of great outdoors for schools. Like, we all had achievements directly contacting, whether it was MSPs or MPs or whoever it might be, and sort of who the politicians were. But connecting young people with those people to have those conversations or get them involved with what our asks were where a lot of our achievements came from. Sort of when we're looking at the other asks, giving young people opportunities to develop their CVs was also something like sort of raised. And then also the fact that we've got youth councils and different young people in sort of different areas of our organisations now, whether it be a youth trustee, a youth council, a steering group, an interview group, etc., etc. So sort of common themes between our achievements and all fantastic things that we probably wouldn't have achieved as well if we didn't have this support network. I don't think that's a personal point I'm adding onto there, Roberta, not one we talked about. But the fact that we have this this connection with other people throughout the whole of the UK, I think gave us all that opportunity to bounce ideas off, and has really resulted in that sort of happening and sort of being pushed forward. So that's great. Leads me on to legacy very nicely as well. Sort of we were talking about the fact that, yeah, young people in sort of more powerful positions within our organisations, whether that be as a council, will be sort of the legacy of the project. We've got young people as trustees, young people in councils, or young people informing on policy and or different things within organisations will automatically progress the 3 asks in the future, because young people will raise these again and other things again that are important to environment within those organisations in the future. So the fact that that's all there and we've put in place young people to have their voices heard on that level will sort of affect that change more naturally as time goes on, hopefully. Just so long as the organisations involved with Our Bright Future, from whether they had a project or involved sort of on the outskirts, keep supporting those young people to be in those positions in the organisations. I don't think I missed anything, but feel free to add away, Roberta, if you want.
No, you were perfect. Thank you, Andy. So we're like 5 groups in total, Nikki, just checking.
Sorry, Roberta, I was catching up on the chat log. Say again?
Where did we have like 5 groups in total? 5 breakout rooms? Yeah,
we had 5 in total.
Perfect. Yeah, so we collected all like feedback from the groups then. So like there was this overlapping, like this thread around like the creating the legacy, what we call creating the next chapter of our bright future. So I think that it's what is coming clear, that it's important in this last month, so again 1 year and a half to go to the end of the program, while projects are like closing down, coming to an end. Like it's exactly what you said today, like embedding the ethos, embedding the 3 asks, and also giving young people the voice, because the 3 asks were created in a specific moment in time, but as far as like young people are there in the organizational structure, it's number 3, then we can have like their voices heard on their asks, on their needs, on their aspirations. So thank you for your input today. And one thing to add is that you can continue to add ideas, thoughts on the Jamboard. We will keep it open for until the end of next week. So please add your ideas, because then they will form specifically like the plans will be really useful to plan the activities going forward for the next months. And then over to Isla for wrapping up. Thank you.
Roberta, I'll just say a big thank you to everyone for sharing your achievements and future plans with us. I think it's a really great thing for us to have this space to reflect on how much has been achieved and what we have to look forward to seeing from projects in the months ahead. So please do make use of the resources we mentioned earlier, and keep an eye out for the various activities that we're going to be getting up to from the central program team. And don't forget the monthly newsletter, which we started last year. So do sign up to that, but also do share with me if there's any activities or events that you'd like to add into the newsletter. The audience for that is a combination of young people and staff from projects and funders. So anything that you'd like to share with that audience, I'm the best person to get in contact with on that. Just drop me an email, give me a call. And finally, just a reminder that we do have that question around what we should do together to ensure that young people's views, needs and aspirations are heard by the leaders at COP. So we'll be sharing a link to that other Jamboard for your ideas on that later on. But thanks again. I think we are perhaps still slightly ahead of time, but unless anyone's got any burning questions, I think I'll hand us over to the next session with the youth.